I remember one day I was, even from a student, you can, from a student you go to a working man. I remember when I just graduated from university, I was out shopping in Top Man or something. And I went to the cashier and I said, "Do you guys take student discount?" And they go, "Yeah." So I gave them my student card. And they looked at my student card, looked at me. They were like, "You're not a student anymore." And I was like, "Oh my days," that's when it hit me that I can't get this 20% discount. So like that, even without noticing, our occupations change. Nationalities can change. We can go from an Indian citizen to a British citizen, from an American citizen to a Chinese citizen. These are all relations to the body. Even languages can change. We can be brought up in one language, or we can be brought up learning one language, and then once we're older, we might completely forget that language and take on another language. Now, here's my chance where I'm going to attempt a joke. My jokes aren't very good. My sisters often say that they are sad and lame, but let's see how it goes. So one day Bill Gates, he called for candidates because he wanted to hire the CEO for the European operations. So he called for candidates from all over the place, and 5,000 people turned up. And Bill Gates goes, he's addressing the public, or the candidates, and he goes, "For those of you that don't know Java, you guys go, you can leave." So out of the 5,000 candidates, 3,000 left, and there were 2,000 remaining. Out of the 2,000 candidates, there was one Mr. Patel. Nothing against Patels, but it's just the way the joke goes. So there was one Mr. Patel, and Mr. Patel goes, "I don't know Java, but try to." And then Bill Gates addressed the candidates again, and he goes, "For those of you that don't have a management degree, you can leave." So there are 2,000 people, no, there are 3,000 people there, and 2,000 people left again. So there were left 1,000 people. And in there was a Mr. Patel. And he goes, "Moto diski pelchu, but try karna sujai." So Bill Gates addressed the candidates again, and he goes, "For those of you that don't have experience of managing at least 100 people in a project, you please leave." Out of the 1,000 people, 500 people left again. And Mr. Patel's there standing like, I'm not sure whether I can manage myself, let alone 100 people. But so 500 people left, and Bill Gates, he addressed the 500 candidates, and he goes, "For those of you that don't know Serbian or Croatian, please leave." Out of the 500 people, 498 people left, and there were 2 people remaining. After the 2 people, there's one Mr. Patel. He goes, "I don't know anything but Gujarati, but try Karma Sujai." So now there's 2 people remaining, and Bill Gates goes to them, he goes, "Now that you two claim that you know you claim that you know Serbian and Croatian, I want to see you guys have a conversation." So Mr. Patel's standing there quite nervous. He looks up and down at the other candidate, and he goes to him, "Game show." And the other candidate goes to him, "Ekdam majama." So, just coming back, so any sort of designation related to the body is changeable, therefore it's temporary. So let's try a little thing. So let's try and identify ourselves with our possessions. Is anybody wearing a watch? Anybody wearing a watch? You're wearing a watch? Whose watch is that? It's my watch. So it's your watch, right? But are you the watch? You're not the watch. Anybody wearing a jacket? You're wearing a jacket. Whose jacket is it?
Mine.
My jacket. I think your jacket, not mine. It's my jacket, right? Are you the jacket?
No.
You're inside the jacket, aren't you? We're wearing trousers. Are you the trousers? No. Whose trousers are they?
Mine.
They're your trousers, right? You're something inside the trousers. Somebody's wearing a hoodie. Hoodie? Yes? Are you wearing a hoodie? Whose hoodie is it?
Mine.
It's your hoodie. Are you the hoodie?
No.
You're something inside the hoodie, right? Yeah? So, do you guys get where I'm coming from? We're not these possessions, we're something inside all these items of clothing. Now, I have eyes. Whose eyes are they? They're my eyes, right? Am I the eyes? No. I have ears. Whose ears are they? They're my ears. Am I the ears? I have a chest. Whose chest is it? It's my chest. Am I the chest?
Yeah.
I have legs. Whose legs are they? They're my legs. Am I the legs? So, if we put all these body parts together, I have a body. Whose body is it? My body. Am I the body?
No.
What am I?
Soul.
Wait. So, we're not this body where just as possessions are not ours, they're ours but we're not them. Similarly, we have this body, but we're not the body. We're something inside the body. Now, and the analogy that's given with the Bhagavad Gita is of a car and the car driver. So, most people have a car here. Does the car ever move by itself? It doesn't move by itself. It's only when the driver is within the car that the car moves, right? It's only when there's a presence of a driver the car moves. So similarly, the car is compared to our body. Without the presence of the soul, the body will not move, the body won't function, or there's no consciousness within the body. And there's another analogy that's given in the scriptures, that of a bird cage and a bird within the cage. So, if we have a bird cage and we polish it very nicely all day, but we don't feed the bird within it, what's going to happen to the bird? The bird's going to die, or the bird will be malnourished, right? Even though the cage is looking all nice and pretty and shiny, the bird will be malnourished. So in this way, the bird cage can be compared to our body. We can spend hours on end trying to make the body look nice, doing our hair, doing our makeup, putting wax in it, getting a haircut, and all that. But if we ignore the soul and we don't feed the soul, then the soul too will be malnourished. So, what's food for the soul? How do we feed the soul? Just like the car. Is the food for the car the same as the food for the driver? It's not, is it? It's different. So the car obviously takes fuel and the driver takes normal food. So, but the principle is that the food for the car and the food for the driver, they're completely different. Similarly, the food for us, for the body, and the food for the soul is different. So, food for the body is obviously, we just have normal food or whatever. Whereas the food for the soul, the scriptures say there's chanting of God's names. Also, there's also a special type of food that we call spiritual food, or prasad, which nourishes both the body and the soul. The significance of prasad and everything we'll talk about in another session. Now, another quality of the soul is that it's qualitatively one with God, but quantitatively different. Everyone with me? No, I've lost you all. So, qualitatively meaning that it's one in quality with God. So, God has 6 qualities, and He has them in full. And the qualities is wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. And anybody who has these 6 qualities in full, only they can claim to be God. So we all have these qualities. We all have some sort of wealth. We all have some sort of fame. We all have strength. Guys may think that they're stronger than others, but you know, we're all beautiful in some sense. Some of us, not all of us. We have knowledge, and we have some sort of renunciation. So this was where we have these qualities, same as God, in number but not in quantity. Does that make sense? Yeah? So, what's the point of learning about the soul? You know, how's it going to benefit me in any way? Now, the Vedic scriptures, they explain that there's 2 types of knowledge. First being Paravidya, and the second being Aparavidya. Now, apara-vidya is material knowledge, and para-vidya is spiritual knowledge, or knowledge of the soul. So, it's important that we have a balance of both, and we don't just exceed in one and neglect the other. So, we have, a lot of us have material knowledge. So material knowledge is knowledge that you gain by going to school, university, and that allows you to get a good job, which eventually pays the bills. So with material knowledge, we get to go through life. Does that make sense? Material knowledge gets us through all the stages of life. So we go to school, get our GCSEs, then go to college or whatever, then go to university, graduate, we get our job, and pay the bills, buy a house and whatnot. So that helps us go through life. Whereas spiritual knowledge helps us grow through life. So it's knowledge of the soul, because it gives us contentment. We see a lot of people these days, not even these days, like for ages, that they have a lot of material knowledge, they have all the money they want, they have all the flashiest cars, they have the biggest houses, they're famous as anything, so they have everything they want at their disposal. But they're not satisfied, are they? There's always that one thing missing. And we see famous people these days, we can only dream of having the wealth that they have. But they're not satisfied. And they end up in depression, end up stressed, and eventually some of them end up committing suicide. As many of you know, that as Robin Williams did last year or the year before. He had everything he wanted, right? All the money, all the cars, the houses, fame, but he just was not satisfied with his life. He had all the material wealth he wanted. However, if we have spiritual knowledge, then we actually understand what the purpose of life is. We actually live a life of contentment rather than a life of stress and depression. Now, I want to sort of come to an end with a short story. There was a king and he had 4 wives. So the wife number 4, he always dressed her up in the best clothes, best garments, gave her the best food to eat, best drinks, everything. He just gave her the best, and he took care of her, loved her the most. Wife number 3, he loved her so much. He showed her off to all his friends, family, anyone that came out, he showed off wife number 3. Wife number 2, he also loved very much. And whenever he was going through a stressful situation, he'd always sit down with her, confide in her, speak to her, and generally she'd give him good advice. And wife number 1, he didn't love her so much. He neglected her, didn't really feed her properly, didn't take care of her at all. And one day, the king he felt quite sick, and he was on his deathbed, and he was like, I don't want to leave alone. I want my wife to come with me. So he calls wife number 4, and he goes to his wife, throughout your whole life, or since we've been married, I've taken care of you so much. Will you come with me when I die? And wife number 4 goes, no, I'm leaving now. And that, it struck the king in the heart like a dagger. And then wife number 3, he called her. He goes, will you come with me when I die? And she goes, no, I'm not going to come with you. I'm going to go and find someone else. You're no use to me now. Again, that, he went straight in the king's heart. Then he calls wife number 2, and he asks, will you come with me when I die? She was like, I can't come with you, but I'll only take you to your grave. That's as far as I can take you. And she goes away as well. So the king's feeling a bit better, but still stinging in his heart that the 3 wives that he loved so much, none of them are willing to come with him. None of them are willing to go with him after death. And so the king's lying on his deathbed, really upset, crying. And then behind the door, he hears a little voice. And the voice says, I'll come with you no matter where you go. and he sees that his wife number one, the wife that he didn't care for, the wife that he didn't love at all, she was willing to go wherever he wanted because she was loyal to him and faithful. So this way we can see that all of us have these 4 wives. Now, wife number 4, she is the representation of our body. So we can dress up the body, give the body the best clothes, best garments, best drinks, best food. But eventually, when we're on our deathbed, the body's going to leave. The body's not going to come with us. Wife number 3, that's compared to our possessions. We can show our possessions off to everyone we have, to all of our friends, family, have the flashiest cars, have millions in their bank account. But evidently, when we're on our deathbed, all our possessions are going to go to someone else. Right? They're not going to come with us. Wife number 2 is compared to our family and friends. So they can only take us so far. They can take us to our grave, and that's as far as they can go. And wife number 1, that's compared to the soul and the super soul. No matter where we go, the soul and the super soul is going to follow us, and it's going to be with us no matter what we do. So, but all we have to do is turn to the super soul and nourish the soul by actually studying, by learning about the soul and studying about it. And the soul will be there for us, and the super soul will be there for us no matter what happens. So just quickly to summarize on what we've learned today. So we've discussed that the body is constantly changing, however the soul remains the same. So like I explained, if you look at a picture of yourself from 15 years ago, it's a different body, but you are still the same person, right? We have 2 different identities, temporary and real. So the temporary identity being related with our body. So all our bodily designations, they're like name, nationality, occupation, they're all temporary because they can change. Whereas our real identity is the identity of the soul, which can't change. We are not the body, we are our soul entrapped within a body. I read a quote a year or 2 ago. It said that we are not human beings having spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Everyone with me? And no matter what we do, the soul and the super soul will always be with us. So I'd just like to conclude there. And if there's any questions, then we can take 1 or 2. And then we'd like to ask any questions or any comments. Yes?
What's the difference between the soul and the super soul?
The soul is, the soul is part and parcel of God. The soul, the super soul is an actual part of God, which is within us. That makes sense? So God is, would you like to explain?
Yeah, so it's explained in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna, who we understand as the personality of Godhead, so in the Abrahamic traditions, God is understood, I guess in the majority of understandings of the Abrahamic traditions, that God is understood to be an impersonal energy that pervades the universe. So in the Bhagavad Gita, this understanding is also given, which is called Brahman. Brahman pervades the whole universe, the whole of creation. And also, as well as Brahman, there is also another representation of God, which is called Paramatma, which is what Nikhil was speaking about, which is the super soul, which is residing in the heart. And this super soul, the Paramatma, which is residing in the heart, watches, he's looking at our activities. It's like 2 birds sitting in a tree, and one bird is eating and the other bird is watching. So that's how karma works. So everything we're doing in our life, good or bad, sometimes I hear people say, I'm not going to go to the temple today because I've done this and it's really bad. But actually we don't have that understanding that God is within the heart and He's seeing everything we do. And that's why we also pay respect. I'll explain this because I think it's an important point. But when it comes to spiritual life, in the Vedic understanding, there are 3 categories of devotees. So it's the beginner, the intermediate, and the topmost. So the beginner, he comes to the temple and he bows down to the deity of Krishna. So the deity of Krishna is actually Krishna himself. So the third, so I said Brahman is the first all-pervading aspect of God. Then it's Paramatma, which is the super soul residing in the heart. And then the source of the two is God, the person himself. That's the actual Vedic understanding that God is ultimately a person like us, but he is the source of everything. He is the supreme person. So when we come to the temple and we are bowing down to the deity, that's really nice and it should be encouraged because it's good for our spiritual life. But we should also try to see God, the super soul within everyone, so that we're not just bowing down to the deity when we come to the temple, but we are able to respect all living entities, human beings, of people of different religions, atheists or animals even, that we respect that living entity, that God is also residing as the super soul in that person's heart. And that's actually what brings us, on a spiritual level, there's equality among all of us. That's why we're always after equality. You know, when we have people campaigning over equality, it's actually only on the spiritual level. On the material level, we're actually not equal. It's quite clear to see some people excel better in certain tests at school, some people physically do better in races. So, you know, materially you can see actually there's no equality, but on a spiritual level, there's equality, and we can see the super soul residing in everyone's heart. And like this, God manifests in each and every living being as a super soul, and that's the second manifestation, as well as Bhagavad and Brahman.
Thank you, Jiggy, for your wonderful answer. Any other questions? And I'll try and answer them. No? In that case, we'll conclude right there. Yes.
There's a picture with Robin Williams and the guy next to him.
Yeah.
To take up spiritual life, does it mean that we have to become like that guy that's meditating?
Yes. So, no, we don't. So, as I explained that there's Vidya, which is material knowledge, and Vidya, which is spiritual knowledge. So if we just tend to one extreme, the material knowledge, I explained that we'll have all the money, all the wealth, all the cars, and all the houses that we want, but we won't have any like inner satisfaction. But if we go to the other extreme of just practicing